started on the wrong foot. Tonight on This Is Exclusive, we'll go live to Islamabad to get you the latest details of what's really happening on the ground and whether at all both the countries will now come together and iron out their differences. All this and much more on this edition of This Is Exclusive. But up first, let me take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour. In a social media post, Trump brags about US oil and energy reserves, says a huge number of oil tankers are heading to the United States of America now. Iranian and American delegations hold talks in Islamabad, negotiations underway. Iran gives a list of 4 demands to the United States, includes complete sovereignty of Hormuz and preparations by the United States of America for what is being seen as a prevention of the war. India flagged LPG vessel Jag Vikram carrying 20,400 metric ton of LPG safely crosses Strait of Hormuz and is expected to dock in India on 15th of April. Iranian leaders warn it will continue bombings if Israel first policy is followed during the talks. Well, as peace talks in Islamabad between US and Iran are now underway, Iran's delegation led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghai Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, meeting Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and senior military officials. The US side is headed by Vice President JD Vance, has also held separate meetings with Shehbaz Sharif. Tehran has conveyed its core demands through the Pakistani channel. Full Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, complete war reparations from the US, unconditional release of blocked assets, and a durable ceasefire across West Asia, particularly full implementation in Lebanon. Iran has also said that Tehran has entered these talks with deep distrust. Citing past US breaches of promises, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai said that Iran is coordinating closely with Lebanon to ensure ceasefire compliance on all fronts. Now, as Iran puts forward its demands, US calls for unrestricted opening of the Hormuz Strait, complete halt to nuclear enrichment, and curbs on Iran's missile program. Ladies and gentlemen, what has essentially happened currently in Islamabad is Iran being extremely wary of the promises that have been made by United States of America and whether at all they will see this through. And it also started with the fact that US Vice President essentially called this negotiation done in bad faith. So how exactly will this happen? Will all the countries come together and be on the negotiating table? And not to forget, one of the main stakeholders as far as this war is concerned, Israel, is not on the negotiating table. And they say that they will continue pounding Lebanon because Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire deal. Before I go across to our reporters on the ground in Islamabad to get you the latest, I want to quickly take you through all that has happened in the last few hours, the dilly-dally, and finally some reports essentially suggesting that the warring countries will be coming together on the negotiating table. First, take a look at this report.
High-stakes talks between US and Iran delegations are underway in Islamabad. The crucial talks between both the nations aimed at preventing West Asia war to escalate. But there has been no direct talks between both the delegations yet. As per Iranian media reports, Tehran has put forward 4 of its major demands in front of US via Pakistan. Hormuz is non-negotiable and ceasefire across the West Asia region. A major point of contention remains Lebanon, with Iran demanding a halt to the Israeli strikes, a condition the US and Israel are not ready to accept. Reportedly, Washington may be willing to lift sanctions, but deep mistrust continues to shadow the negotiation. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that Tehran has entered these talks with complete distrust. And a stark warning from Iran's first Vice President Mohammad Reza Arif: if there will be a Israel-first approach, there will be no deal. Meanwhile, Pakistan's PM Shehbaz Sharif has met Vice President Vance, and Iranian delegation held a second meet with the commander of the Pakistani army. With tensions still simmering, the Islamabad talks could either mark the first step towards peace or could result in further escalation.
Well, in fact, before I go across to our reporters and analysts in Pakistan to get us the latest details, I want to quickly take you through what are the key issues, what are the demands that have been made by United States of America, and of course, the demands that have been made by Iran. Pakistan, in fact, is hosting the key talks between United States and Iran, and this is happening in Islamabad, and Islamabad is essentially positioning themselves as someone who's brokering the peace. The four core issues between both of the nations remain at the heart of the deadlock. First, let's take a look at it: sanctions. Iran is demanding the immediate lifting of all the US and international sanctions tied to its nuclear and missile programs, plus the unblocking of billions in foreign assets. The Trump administration, however, is using sanctions as a leverage and has signaled that they will only ease once Tehran agreed to US demands. Now let's move on to the others. Second, the shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. That's the second point that we have put on the screens. Traffic remains well below the normal levels despite the ceasefire. US insists on the strait's immediate, complete and unrestricted reopening with no Iranian tolls or interference. Trump also claimed in his most recent tweet that the process of clearing the Strait of Hormuz has begun. Iran, on the other hand, wants formal acknowledgement of its authority over the waterway and the right to manage the passage. Let's move to the third one. That's nuclear enrichment. And this happens to be the biggest sticking point. Washington demands zero enrichment on Iranian soil, full dismantlement of enrichment facilities, and surrender of stockpiles. Tehran flatly rejects this, insisting to enrich uranium. And the final point is on attacks on Lebanon. Iran is pushing for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Lebanon to halt Israeli strikes on Hezbollah. US has so far refused to link the Hormuz and nuclear files to events in Lebanon, calling them separate issues. Now, these are the key issues. We'll go to the demands in a short while from now, but let me first introduce our analyst joining us would be joining us in a short while from now. Before I bring in our analyst as well as our guest from Islamabad, there you have it. In fact, Irfan is joining us from the venue. And we also have our other guest who's joining us, Javed. Thank you very much. Irfan, I want to first come to you to get a sense of what's really happening right now. There was a lot of confusion about whether at all we would have the warring countries, Iran and United States of America, on the negotiating table, and perhaps Pakistan being the intermediary. All this while it was being reported that there are separate meetings happening. Bring us up to speed as to what's really happening from the venue that you're reporting.
It was a wonderful day today, and both delegations visited Pakistan. I mean, they had separate meetings with Prime Minister of Pakistan, and his team. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister, and Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi. And both the guys, they are very good in negotiations. And the Prime Minister had the initial meeting with Iranian delegations, which were Indian side. I mean, they really criticized that, there was no smiles and, no good gestures, but it was really effective and fruitful meeting. And I believe that it was just a welcoming meeting. There was no negotiations and no draft, like conditions, were exchanged with each other. And in the second meeting, if you have seen the visuals, it was wonderful. Quite welcoming. Smiles were passed around and they were hugging each other. And after that meeting with JD Vance and his, colleagues, the government of Pakistan issued a statement that it was really a fruitful meeting and it's a step towards a global peace. And I believe it was a wonderful day, not only for Pakistan, but for Iran, United States of America, and rest of the countries, those who are being badly affected by the Strait of Hormuz. And I believe that India is one of them because I have seen long queues of people who were carrying, LNG cylinders on their shoulders, and they were waiting for, gas because its price has gone spike high, and the shortage was already there. And I have seen people in India who was waiting for, to get fuel in their bikes. So similar situation was around in Pakistan and other countries, and Europe. European countries particularly, they were also being affected, but they are, they have a lot of resources. But if the situation had continued, it would have been affect them very badly. And so the reason why they just foresighted European countries and they put a lot of pressure on Donald Trump, so that forced them actually to go for negotiations, and it's a win-win situation for both the countries, particularly Iran and the United States. But I would explain one more thing, that we should not mix Lebanon and Israel with Iran, because these are two issues. Although Iran is insisting that this should be part of the truce, but I believe that it's a separate issue because United States is not involved in killing in Lebanon. So because these dialogues are being led by United States. So they have given very strong message to Netanyahu that he should stop bombing in Lebanon because it is affecting the peace talks. It was really wonderful day. I believe that today's were welcoming meetings, and tomorrow there are chances that both the sides they will sit together across the table and would exchange the drafts.
Irfan, I'll look at the tangibles in a short while from now. Let me just get a quick analysis from Javed, who's also joining us on this broadcast. Javed, we can't perhaps gloss over the fact that Iranians do have this kind of distrust right now, particularly because they've been backstabbed in the past. What's the sense that you're getting right now? Have the Iranians agreed to budge a little further? And is there an expectation that there could be a joint statement issued by both the countries as far as the way forward is concerned?
I think Americans have lost kind of the bargaining chip that they had before the start of this war. American could have had a far better deal before the war, but now things have changed altogether. Americans might have militarily degraded Iran, but in strategic context, in strategic perspective, Iran has gained a lot. And now things have changed altogether. That is why it looks to me that Iran, in a way, is also dictating its terms. Now Iran has made it a clear point that Lebanon war front has to be closed. By the way, this was part and parcel of the initial understanding that Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had with the White House, and the text of the statement of the Prime Minister was coordinated with the White House. So White House did agree, but later on, under pressure from Netanyahu, Donald Trump and JD Vance, they backtracked from that statement and said there is some misunderstanding. I think this is going to be one of the conditions. Probably Netanyahu has agreed to scale back the number of the attacks, but he is not going to end the Lebanon's war front. I think this is just a part of the progress which has been made so far, but there is a possibility that the Netanyahu may go for a ceasefire, maybe for a certain number of the days, as long as these talks are proceeding. Another demand from Iran is, which going by Reuters report, is that America must release $7 billion amount of the assets that it had frozen. I think it looks like that this is also going to be accepted. But again, the bone of contention is about the nuclear program. And my understanding is that the Iranians are going to insist that it is going to enrich the uranium up to 37% as allowed by the IAEA within the rules and regulation, the protocol of the IAEA. Americans want a zero enrichment. I don't think Americans are in a position now to dictate its terms, because the American economy is going from bad to the
you're saying, Javed, they'll accept it
because of its connectivity with the international global economy. So
Javed,
in that broader
you're saying,
context,
because
I
that's a
think
very crucial point. Sorry, I'm interrupting you because that happens to be the sticking point right now. Nuclear enrichment. And Iranians, in fact, when I spoke to them here in India, they indicated that the 10-point ceasefire plan that had been floated earlier, in which nuclear enrichment was allowed, was accepted by the Americans. Are you suggesting that there is a high possibility that Americans will concede when it comes to nuclear enrichment?
I think the Americans are going to concede to the extent that the Iran can retain its nuclear program. But there is another problem. And that is about the 400 kilogram enriched uranium. I think it was up to the 60% enriched uranium, which Iranians had taken away from the nuclear sites before being destroyed by the Israel and the Americans in June last year. So I think that is going to be at the heart of the problems. I don't think the Iranians are going to hand over enriched nuclear material to the Americans, but could be possibility that Iran may be agreeing to hand that over to some third country. That is just one such possibility. And then I think there is going to be very interesting aspect that the Iran, now there is a new reality which has emerged in the Arabian Sea, and that is the Iran is showing its sovereignty on the Strait of the Hormuz, and it looks like that the Americans perhaps are going to agree that the Iran could go for imposition of some kind of a toll tax on the oil ships moving in and out from that part, and perhaps particularly coming from the Gulf states. And then Oman is going to have some share of the toll tax, and probably Americans will have some share. That is an indication I'm getting from the Donald Trump's press talk. But again, that is something which is easier said than done. Now, this new reality of Strait of Hormuz, Iranian showing its sovereignty, I think Americans have got everything to lose.
Right.
It was not a reality before the start of this war.
Okay, let me go back to Irfan because he's there where the talks are essentially taking place. Irfan, what are we to expect if the talks are over today? Because Iranian media was reporting saying that the delegation is in Pakistan for just one day. It was in a way that they suggested that it will happen today or it's not going to happen any further. Are you getting a sense that somewhere down the line they will perhaps come to a middle ground and some acceptance and some announcement? Is it likely to be made? And is Shehbaz Sharif addressing the nation later tonight?
I believe so that all the parties, including Pakistan, they have agreed to a point that unless until they do not reach to any conclusion, they would not disclose anything to the media. Generally, they would give good news that talks are going on. And one more thing that I think that if they do not reach to a conclusion, but at least after 2 or 3 days, if talks continues, I mean, till tomorrow or day after tomorrow, Pakistan has made enough arrangements for that, and Pakistan is in a position to convince JD Vance that he should stay some more days, unless until truce do not take place. But at least we are very much hopeful that at least this war, I mean, the extent, this peace, it would extend for another month or so, unless until it does not, I mean, completely, I mean, all the parties do not reach to an agreement where it satisfies Iran, United States, and rest of the countries, particularly Middle Eastern countries. They are not part of these talks, but indirectly, I mean, they are there. I mean, they are getting information, and they have. I mean, today even finance minister met finance minister of Saudi Arabia, but they are in direct touch with Prime Minister of Pakistan. But they are very much concerned, and they are indirect stakeholders because United States does not share any boundary with Iran or any Middle Eastern country. But Iran knows that, particularly UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, they are close allies of the United States. And if Iran is in danger, it would directly hit to these countries, and Iran has already announced that. So that means their like not wishes, but their conditions would also be part of this discussion that how they can be safe in the future. Because if United States leave Iran as a victorious country in the region, it would be really harmful for those countries. I mean, those who are neighbors of this. Iran. So for that matter, Pakistan has to consider Saudi Arabia's, concerns and as well as UAE's concerns. So because it would directly affect them, so they cannot leave anything in the middle of this strait. So because I have gone through so many other reports that they have an alternative plan that another pipeline would be carried through Israel and then to the Central Asian countries, the rest of the world, but it is not feasible. So that's the only route, from where 20% of the oil is being taken to those countries. So they are concerned, particularly China, Pakistan, even India, because India, I have seen all the TV screens of Indian media, they are not happy with those negotiations, and they have been declaring Pakistan as terroristan and shaky talks. And I don't know why they are pessimists. I believe that India should be hopeful that these talks to reach to a conclusion. So it could benefit as well, because it's a matter of life and death of so many people, and it can be an economic disaster for so many countries. So I believe that if talks continues for another 2 to 3 days, there will be a good statement come out of this. And I believe unless until they do not reach to a conclusion, Shehbaz Sharif would not go for a kind of an address or any joint statement.
Well, thank you very much, Irfan, for joining us from outside the venue of the talks. Javed, just a quick word before I let you go. Net, are you expecting, because you must have spoken to officials there who have been part of the delegation, what's the sense that you're getting? Is there a midway or perhaps some sort of a finality that are we expecting from these talks? I just 30 seconds to you before I move on to the other big story that we're tracking.
I think the broad contours of the negotiations are going to be held today, and these may be concluded today or tomorrow. But from there onwards, there is going to be technical level discussions, and it could take days and perhaps weeks. So it is just a beginning of a broader, developing a broader understanding on how to resolve this crisis. Particularly, there is going to be deep-seated technical discussion on the nuclear program. I think that is going to be important in coming days and weeks.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on This Is Exclusive, coming to you live from Islamabad. That was Javed and Irfan. Thank you very much for putting this into perspective and also bringing us up to speed. Now, the other big thing that we are essentially focusing on is the price of war, which has never been equal. And what we have essentially seen, ladies and gentlemen, is that one sticking point has been the red lines that have been crossed in this particular war. School children have been targeted. Iranians now claim that 600 schools have actually been targeted by United States of America. And there was one message that was sent across by the Iranian delegation when they landed in Islamabad. It was blood-soaked school bags and pictures of those children who lost their lives in that dastardly attack that was carried out by the Israelis and the Americans. Take a look at this detailed report.
The price of any war is unfair. US investigations seem to have forgotten the February 28 Minab attack.
So I can report that CENTCOM has designated an investigating officer to complete a command investigation. The command investigation will take as long as necessary to address all the matters surrounding this incident. And the investigating officer is from outside CENTCOM and is a general officer. But I will note to this group and to the world, there's only one entity in this conflict between us and Iran that never targets civilians. Literally never targets civilians. I look at the process that's used on dynamic strikes or on boat strikes and others. We have a very high fidelity process in that case. So we don't target, Iran does. We will investigate, we'll get to the truth, and we'll share it when we have it.
A US strike that killed 168 school children, all girls aged just between 7 to 12 years. A US's Tomahawk hit the elementary school in 3 separate strikes, leaving behind missile debris. But more evidences point towards the US's brutal attack on Minab and about 600 other schools inside Iran. New reports suggest a PRSM ballistic missile hit the schools, including Minab. The precision strike missile hit was recorded in a simultaneous strike in Iran's Lamed, targeting another school and leaving 21 dead. A missile that wasn't even fully tested was used to strike at least 3 areas inside Iran. At each location, the burst of pellets created large-scale damage, with evidence of these pellets ingrained onto the walls of structures that were struck. While the United States is pushing the blame under the carpet, the evidences of their possible war crimes run far deeper than what meets the eye.